بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I welcome you all to lesson to the second video in our curriculum series. The previous lesson was in the previous lesson we discussed a curriculum for studying sarf because sarf should be given precedence over other ulum. Uh, na'am. Because what you're going to study later on in other ulum, it is going to be built on your studies of sarf. And if you've studied sarf beforehand, studying Nahw will be easier for you, insha'Allah ta'ala. Now, in this lesson, we're going to talk about, or we're going to suggest a curriculum for studying Nahw. We're going to discuss, or we're going to talk about, we're going to mention some of the classical texts on Nahw and some modern texts as well, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, in the previous video, I spoke briefly about the sciences of the Arabic language in general. So if you want a general overview of the main sciences of the Arabic language, you can always go back and refer to the previous lesson. Um, After Sarf, Nahu should be given precedence over Balagha and other sciences because without studying Nahu, you will not be able to understand Ilmul Ma'ani, and without knowing Nahu, you will not be able to make sense of adab grammatically either, and it is highly likely that you will be making mistakes while reading texts as well. So Nahu is very important, and as the scholars mention, Nahu is to speech, kalam, as salt is to food. Um, just as food would be bland without salt, it would be tasteless. You wouldn't want to eat it. Similarly, speech without nahu it wouldn't really be worth calling speech, would it? Because it will be riddled with mistakes. Now, طيب, let's move on to the curriculum, inshallah ta'ala. Now, as far as classical texts are concerned, arguably the most popular text covering the essentials of Nahwu is Al-Muqaddimatul Ajurrumiyah, or usually it's referred to as just Al-Ajurrumiyah by Ibn Ajurrum, rahimahullah. And this is a blessed text. It's a text which has gained acceptance amongst the ulama. It has been studied, across centuries, alhamdulillah. And it's a blessed text. There are many explanations which have been written on Al-Ajurrumi as well, the sharh of Sheikh Muhammad Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid al-Tuhfa al-Saniya, the sharh of Sheikh Ahmed Zini Dahlan, the sharh of Al-Azhari, and so on and so forth. And my recommendation is that a student of knowledge, inshallah ta'ala, they can commence their journey in studying Nahwu with Al-Ajurrumiyah, provided that they have some background in studying Arabic beforehand. Otherwise, it is better for them to start off with a modern text like An-Nahwu al-Wadih or Ad-Durus al-Nahwiyya, نعم, or the Medina books as well. The Medina books, they're not really grammar textbooks, but a lot of grammar is covered in them. They're meant to teach you how to read and write Arabic in general. And I do believe that apart from studying these classical texts in Sarf and Nahu, a student should study one of these language textbooks like Al-Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk and the Medina books to learn the language as a whole as well, not just the rules. Now, uh, so Al-Ajurrumiyya can be the first classical text which a student studies, and initially it should be studied with a Tuhfa Saniya, or just the explanation of a teacher and nothing more. And After that, a student can study the Sharh of Sheikh Ahmed Zaini Dahlan. inshallah ta'ala. The Sharh of Sheikh Ahmed Zini Dahlan, I believe, is of prime importance. And the reason why I am recommending Al Ajurumiyya is mainly because of its shuruhat. Yes, also because it has been studied by the ulama traditionally, but also because of its shuruhat. The shuruhat are of importance. And the Sharh of Sheikh Ahmed Zaini Dahlan is an application based Sharh. He does i'rab of examples every now and then. So it's an important book to go through. And the Sharh of Al Kafarawi as well is an important book to go through for a student of knowledge to develop this malaka of being able to do i'rab, the al malaka al i'rabiyya. Um, Optionally, after studying Al-Ajurumiyya with the Sharh of Shaykh Ahmed Zini Dahlan and after studying Sharh Al-Kafrawi as well, these should be studied while one is studying Al-Ajurumiyya. So the organization could be study the Matan of Al-Ajurumiyya, just the Matan with the explanation of a teacher, or with a Tuhfa Saniyya, and then read the Sharh of Shaykh Ahmed Zini Dahlan and then Sharh Al-Kafrawi. طيب, and if all three are studied with a teacher, then that's the best. That is the best. After that, optionally a student could go through Nahumir, and the only reason why I would recommend that is because the organization of Nahumir is very good. The way it organizes and presents the rules of Nahu in a very logical way, it helps the student of knowledge, conceptualize the science of Nahu in a very nice way. Al-Ajurumiyya lacks, a good organization in that sense. Now, yes, it's a good text. It covers the essentials of Nahu within a few pages, but Nahumir presents Nahu in a very easy to understand and logical way. So a student of knowledge can benefit from that as well, but it's optional. That is optional. After this stage, and Al-Ajurumiyya can be replaced with Nahumir as well, right? Because in the Indian subcontinent, they don't study Al-Ajurumiyya for the most part. They mainly study Nahumir as the first text, or Ilmun Nahu, or Tashilun Nahu, and other such texts. And those texts, technically, they can replace Al-Ajurumiyya because these texts are at the level of Al-Ajurumiyya with a good sharh, with a good sharh. However, I recommend studying Al-Ajurumiyya with a good sharh because of the importance of the sharh of Shaykh Ahmed Zini Dahlan and Sharh Al-Kafrawi for developing this Malaka I'rabiyya. Now, then Sharh Miyata or this Malaka to be able to do I'rab. Now, then a student should study Sharh Miyata and the sharh which I recommend is the one by Mullah Abdul Rahman Jami, rahimahullah. It's a matan-like sharh, very brief, to the point, succinct, and traditionally in the Indian subcontinent region, students would study Sharh Muta'amil, they would study the contents of it, and they would do tarkeeb of the whole text. They would grammatically analyze the whole text of Sharh Muta'amil. And I recommend that when a teacher teaches this, they make the student do i'rab of the text as they're going through it, applying what they've learned in their studies of Al-Ajurumiyya. And also, after Sharh Muta'amil, they should study the Awamil of Al-Birkawi. So the Awamil Al-Awamil Al-Mi'a by Al-Jurjani are called Al-Awamil Al-Qadima, the old Awamil, and the Awamil of Al-Birgawi are called Al-Awamil Al-Jadida. Both should be studied by the student, right? Both should be studied. After this stage, there's an optional stage of Al-Mutammimatul Ajurrumiyya. And Al-Mutammimatul Ajurrumiyya will add to whatever was left in your study of Al-Ajurrumiyya. It will complete that. It will complete that. And it's something which I suggest. I suggest that a student goes through this stage, even though it's optional. And at this stage, they should also go through Izharul Asrar by Al-Birgawi as well. Izharul Asrar is an important text to go through. After that, I've recommended Qawa'id al-I'rab by Ibn Hisham or the Nazm of al-Zawawi, and there are other texts as well. And these texts are on the topic of I'rab al-Jumal, doing I'rab of sentences. And a student could study قواعد الإعراب or منظومة إعراب الجمل or نظم الزواوي, any of these texts, to master the إعراب of جمل and to understand how we do إعراب of sentences, إعراب of جمل. And this is a very, very important stage. It should not be skipped at all. After this comes the stage of قطر الندى, and قطر الندى should ideally be studied with the Sharh of Ibn Hisham rahimahullah himself, and the Sharh of Al-Fakihi. Both of these shuruhat should be read and understood well. And I've recommended Hidayatul Nahw as well because of its organization. It's a simplification of Kafiya, Hidayatul Nahw. It beautifully presents Nahw. Its organization is much better than Qatr al-Nada, but the shuruhat of Qatr al-Nada are of prime importance, and Ibn Hisham makes you think like a Nahwi. He makes you think like a Nahwi. There's a barakah in those books which were written by mutakhassisin in that field, right? So Ibn Hisham is a Nahwi that you don't wanna skip his works. Qatr nada should be studied, and Hidayatul Nahw can be studied optionally. Technically, Hidayatul Nahw can replace Qatr nada in the curriculum, as it does in the Indo-Pak curriculum, but I prefer Qatr nada. And for the purpose of conceptualization and the organization of the grammar rules, one can go through Hidayat al-Nahu, inshallah ta'ala. After this stage, Shudur al-Dhahab should be studied, Shudur al-Dhahab by Ibn Hisham. And Qatr al-Nada and Shudur al-Dhahab are like twins. You shouldn't limit yourself to one of them. You should do Qatr and Shudur both. If one does not want to specialize in Nahu, then they can stop here at this stage. They don't have to go further. However, for the one who wants to specialize, they can go further. They should go further. In fact, they will need to go further and study the rest of the texts that are mentioned there. From them is Al-Mughni by Al-Jarabardi with its shuruhat. It's an important text. Alfiyat ibn Malik. The easiest sharh, arguably, is Sharh ibn Aqil, but a student should read Awdah al-Masalik and Al-Ushmuni, the Sharh of Al-Ushmuni as well, referring to the Hawashi on Alfiyat ibn Malik as well. And they should study Kafi as well, Kafiyat ibn al-Hajib, with the Sharh of Radi al-Din al-Istirabadi. And there are other shuruhat of Kafi as well, but the Sharh of Radi is of prime importance for a mutakhassis. And after that, we have Mughni al-Labib and Sharh al-Lajami. Now, Mughni al-Labib is well known as by Ibn Hisham, and I don't think any mutakhassis can ignore this book. It's a very, very important book to study, Mughni al-Labib. And Sharh al-Lajami is actually an explanation of Kafiya, but the reason why I've mentioned it separately is because it's a matan-like explanation. It requires a lot of tafkik, a lot of tashrih, a lot of explanation, and its mantiqi style helps a student logically conceptualize the rules of Nahu in a very nice way. طيب. There are many questions that this book answers, right? Sharh Mulla Jami, and it's an important text, in my opinion, for a mutakhassis to go through, and it's taught here in the Indo-Pak curriculum. A student can go through it while studying Kafiya, uh, but it can be studied as a separate matan on its own as well. Uh, it's A lot of it is a tatbiq, an application of منطقي قوانين, the rules of mantiq on Nahwi definitions, or on the definitions of Nahwi concepts and terms. But he goes into the ta'lilat and the rationale behind different rules, which is very, very nice for a mutakhassis. But it's an important sharh, especially for a mutakhassis. And that's the classical, those are the classical texts that should be studied, in my opinion. Now, coming to the modern texts, there are many modern texts that have been written. There are some which I have mentioned. There are others which could have been mentioned as well. like Al-Qawa'id Al-Asasiyya by Al-Hashimi. It's a good and important text as well. But a lot has been written on Nahw. So from the modern texts which I have mentioned, the ones which I recommend the most are Jami' Durus Al-Arabiya by Al-Ghalayini. I think it should be studied. And At-Tatbiq Al-Nahwi. These two, and Ma'ani Al-Nahw. So these three texts, I highly recommend them. And An-Nahw al-Wafi is a very, very important resource for a mutakhassis as well. And it can be an important resource, to be honest, for non-mutakhassis as well. If you want to quickly revise a rule, and you want to read and you want to understand the rule in simple language, and Nahw al-Wafi is a go-to text. So from the modern texts, the four most important texts that are mentioned are Jami' Durus al-Arabiya and Nahw al-Wafi and Ma'ani al-Nahw and At-Tatbiq al-Nahwi. Now, in the initial stages, in the Ajurumiyya stage, a student can study and can refer to An-Nahw al-Tatbiqi. This is different from At-Tatbiq al-Nahwi. An-Nahw al-Tatbiqi by Sheikh Khalid Abdul Aziz. It presents the rules of Nahw in a very nice, simple way. And for charts and diagrams, one can refer to كيف تتقن النحو by Sheikh Ahmed Iskandar. These are good for beginners. طيب and الدروس النحوية as well. And these modern texts are good for beginners. النحو الواضح has a lot of examples, and that can be very, very, very helpful for a beginner as well. Inshallah ta'ala. And النحو الكافي has a lot of تدريبات as well in it. So النحو التطبيقي, النحو الكافي, النحو الواضح, الدروس النحوية, كيف تتقن النحو. These are texts for beginners, and they can refer to these texts. They can do the exercises, understand the concepts because the concepts are presented in simple language or in tables and charts, which is very beneficial for a student. So these texts can be helpful in the beginning stages, from when you're studying Al-Ajur Rumiyya all the way to till when you're studying Qatr Nada, that intermediate stage. And At-Tatbiq al-Nahwi should 100% be studied by every student of Nahw. 100%, 100%. And ideally, this should be studied in the Mutammimatul Ajur Rumiyya stage or the Qawa'id al-I'rab stage, ideally speaking. And the rest should be read. Jami' Durus al-Arabiya, Ma'ani al-Nahw, and al-Nahw al-Wafi should be read by a mutakhassis, insha'Allah ta'ala. So this is a brief presentation regarding a suggested curriculum of Nahw. Some of these texts we're teaching them at the Arabic Code. We plan to launch a course on Mutammimatul Ajur Rumiyya soon. I am currently teaching Al-Ajur Rumiyya with the Sharh of Sheikh Zaini Dahlan. You'll find the link to that in the description, inshallah. Sheikh Ustad Mustafa has taught Qatr al-Nada, the complete text, and that course is also available. You'll find the link to it. It's available as a recorded course. You'll find the link to it in the description as well, inshallah. And at the moment, Ustad Mustafa is teaching Manzumatu I'rab al-Jumal, which is based on a section from Mughni al-Labib. And that course is ongoing as well, and you can also register for that, inshallah ta'ala. The lessons which have been delivered, the recordings for that are available, inshallah ta'ala. Bi-idhnillah al-kareem, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments section. Feel free to email us. جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم.